My phone lit up in the dark with 45 missed calls and unread messages, all from the same people who were supposed to be here. My name is Courtney Reynolds. I'm 31, and just 2 weeks ago, a car accident left me with a broken leg, a heavy cast, and no way to move around my second-floor apartment without help. My parents swore they'd stay with me for at least 3 weeks. They promised to cook every meal, keep the fridge stocked, help me up and down those endless stairs, and make sure I never had to reach for anything on my own. I believed them. I had to. Then they left. They flew to Hawaii for a quick family getaway they said was already booked and couldn't be canceled. I found out through my brother's stories, smiling faces on the beach. Cocktails raised zero mention of the sister they left behind. When I finally called Connor for help, the background noise was waves and laughter. He didn't even pretend to listen. He just sighed loud enough for me to hear. "Don't overreact, Courtney. It's just a broken leg." I stared at the empty room, the pill bottle. I couldn't reach the untouched food delivery outside the door. Something inside me clicked. I answered quietly, "Thanks for showing me who you really are." He laughed it off like I was being dramatic and hung up. 2 weeks later, I made a decision they never saw coming. Now my phone won't stop buzzing with the same desperate messages. "Please call us back. Please talk to us." If you've ever been the one who always holds everything together for your family, the fixer, the reliable one, and got nothing in return when you needed them most, stay until the end. This is the story of how I finally let go. And if stories like this hit home for you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. There are more waiting. The rain was coming down in sheets that morning, the kind of Seattle downpour that turns the roads into mirrors. I was driving home from a late shift, windshield wipers on full speed, when the car in front slammed on brakes. I hit the pedal hard, but the tires lost grip. The world tilted, metal crunched, glass shattered, and then everything went quiet except for the pounding in my chest and the sharp burning pain exploding in my right lower leg. By the time the paramedics arrived, I already knew something was badly broken. The X-ray in the ER confirmed it, a clean fracture of the tibia, but the bone had shifted enough to need immediate surgery for a plate and screws. They wheeled me into the operating room that afternoon. I remember the anesthesiologist asking if I had anyone coming, and I said yes, my parents were on their way. They arrived just as I was waking up in recovery, groggy from the meds. My dad, Richard, burst through the curtain, first face pale, still wearing his work jacket. He grabbed my hand and kissed my forehead. "We're here, sweetheart. You're going to be okay." Mom Susan was right behind him, already talking to the nurse about discharge instructions, pain management, everything. She looked like she hadn't slept, eyes red, but her voice was steady. "We're staying with you the whole time, Courtney. At least 3 weeks. I'll cook. I'll clean. I'll make sure you don't lift a finger." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? That was what family did. The next day, the whole crew showed up. Dad brought coffee for everyone, including a decaf for me, and sat by the bed telling old stories to keep me distracted from the throbbing in my leg. Mom was in full organization mode, taking notes on the doctor's orders, asking about physical therapy timelines, even making a list of groceries she'd need for when I got home. She kept repeating 3 weeks minimum. "I'm not going anywhere until you're steady on those crutches." Connor and Kayla arrived later than everyone else. My younger brother walked in holding a to-go bag from a burger place. Nose wrinkled the second he stepped inside. "God, the smell in here is brutal," he muttered loud enough for the nurse to hear. Kayla was already on her phone, snapping a quick selfie with me in the background, cast propped up IV in my arm. She captioned it, "Visiting my brave sis," and posted it before she even said hello. They stayed maybe 20 minutes. Connor kept checking his watch, complaining about traffic, and Kayla scrolled through comments on her story. When they left, Connor gave me a half hug and said, "Get better quick, sis. We've got that Hawaii thing coming up." I thought he was joking about postponing it. I was wrong. The day I was discharged felt almost normal. The doctor cleared me, handed over a stack of prescriptions, and warned me about the stairs at home. No elevator in my building's second-floor narrow hallway. Mom drove me back, helped me maneuver the crutches up every single step. It took forever. My leg screamed with each bump, but she kept saying, "Almost there. Almost there." Once inside, she got me settled on the couch, elevated the leg with pillows, filled the nightstand with water bottles, pain meds, snacks, and the remote. She even set up a shared Google Calendar on my phone, red blocks for meds every 4 hours, blue for physical therapy exercises, green for meals she planned to cook. I watched her bustle around the tiny kitchen, stocking the fridge with soup containers, yogurt, easy things. She looked tired but determined. When she finished, she leaned down, kissed my forehead, and said exactly what I needed to hear. "I'm going home to grab some extra clothes and check on a few things at work. I'll be back first thing in the morning, okay? And don't worry about the Hawaii trip. It was booked months ago, non-refundable. We're only going for a few days. Then I'm right back here. Promise." I nodded, exhaustion pulling me under. "Okay, Mom. Thanks." She smiled, squeezed my hand, and left. The apartment door clicked shut behind her. I listened to her footsteps fade down the stairs. For the first time since the accident, the place felt too quiet. But I pushed the thought away. She'd be back in the morning. They all would. I closed my eyes, the pain meds starting to dull the edges, and let myself believe for one last night that everything was going to be fine. The first full day alone passed in a haze of medication and careful movements. I woke up to sunlight slanting through the blinds, the apartment quiet except for the distant hum of traffic outside. My leg ached, but the pain was still manageable, dull and constant, not yet screaming. I swallowed the morning dose from the nightstand, grateful Mom had left everything within easy reach. Breakfast was simple. A yogurt cup I could open, one-handed a banana from the fridge. I ate slowly on the couch, leg propped high, telling myself this was just temporary. Mom would be back soon, like she said. The Google Calendar pinged a reminder for my next dose. I felt a small spark of optimism. I could handle one day. I spent the morning trying to distract myself, scrolling through work emails on my phone, answering a few messages from coworkers who had heard about the accident. They sent get-well memes and promises of coffee runs once I was mobile again. It helped. The pain stayed in the background, a nagging reminder, but not overwhelming. By afternoon, I even managed to hobble to the bathroom on my crutches without incident. I looked in the mirror, saw the dark circles under my eyes, the cast like a white prison from knee to toes, and thought, okay, one day down. Tomorrow will be easier when Mom gets here. Night fell early the way it does in winter. I took my evening meds, turned on the TV for company, and fell asleep to some mindless sitcom rerun. I dreamed of the beach, warm sand, no crutches, no cast. When I woke in the middle of the night for a bathroom run, the pain had sharpened, but I pushed through. Still, I told myself she'll be here in the morning. The second day started the same meds-propped, leg-quiet apartment. But by midday, the ache had deepened into something hotter, more insistent. Every shift of weight sent a jolt up my thigh. I tried to ignore it, focused on staying hydrated, nibbling crackers. Around 2 p.m., I reached for the water bottle on the side table. My arms stretched too far, knocking the bottle of stronger painkillers, the ones for breakthrough pain, off the edge. It rolled under the bed, just out of sight, just out of reach. I leaned over, crutches braced, but the cast made it impossible to bend low enough. I tried again, straining until sweat beaded on my forehead. Nothing. The bottle stayed there, mocking me from the shadows under the frame. I sat back, breathing hard. That was when the real panic started creeping in. I ordered food through an app, simple soup and bread, something warm. The driver left the bag in the hallway, snapped a photo, and was gone. I heard the door click shut. Getting to it took everything. I inched the crutches forward, one agonizing step at a time, sweat soaking my shirt by the time I reached the door. I opened it, leaned out, grabbed the handles, but my balance gave way. The crutches slipped, my good leg buckled under the extra weight. I barely caught myself on the doorframe, heart hammering. The bag stayed in the hallway, cooling. I retreated to the couch, defeated, and ate the last stale granola bar from the nightstand. By late afternoon, the pain was a living thing clawing up my leg. I needed the fallen bottle. I needed help. I picked up the phone. First Mom, straight to voicemail, then Dad. No answer, no ring, just silence. My thumb hovered over Connor's name. I called. The line connected after 3 rings. In the background, waves crashing, distant laughter, ukulele music drifting through. Courtney. Connor sounded annoyed, like I'd interrupted something important. Hey, I started, voice thin. I dropped the strong pain meds under the bed. I can't reach them. The food delivery's outside, but I can't get to it. It hurts a lot more today. There was a pause, then a long exhale. Courtney, don't overreact. It's just a broken leg. I swallowed. Connor, I'm alone. Mom hasn't come back. I can't even. He cut me off. We're finally relaxing in Hawaii. We needed this break. You're an adult, order. More food. Take the regular meds, figure it out. Stop making us feel bad about taking a few days off. The words landed like a slap. I stared at the wall, the phone hot against my ear. I waited a beat, then said quietly, "Thanks for showing me who you really are." He let out a short, scoffing laugh. "You're always so dramatic." Then the line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly. The room felt colder. The hope I'd been clinging to all day, the small, fragile belief that this was just a misunderstanding, shattered in that moment. No one was coming. Not Mom, not Dad, not Connor. For the first time since the accident, I felt completely alone. By the 3rd evening alone, the silence in the apartment felt heavier than the cast on my leg. The days had blurred together, waking, taking whatever meds I could reach, staring at the ceiling, waiting for a knock that never came. I hadn't showered properly in days, hadn't eaten anything hot since the delivery I couldn't retrieve. The pain had settled into a constant throb, but it was the emptiness that hurt more. No phone calls, no texts, no "how are you" from anyone. Just me, the crutches leaning against the couch, and the growing certainty that I was on my own. Boredom and worry finally pushed me to pick up my phone that night. I hadn't checked social media since before the accident. I told myself I just needed a distraction, something to fill the quiet. I opened Instagram. Kayla's stories loaded first. The thumbnail was bright blue water and white sand. I tapped. The first clip, the whole family on a resort balcony at sunset, palm trees, swaying, ocean glittering behind them. Mom had her arm around Connor, laughing at something off camera. Dad held up a colorful cocktail, toasting the lens. Connor grinned, wide sunglasses on, looking relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. Kayla panned the camera slowly, showing the infinity pool, the lounge chairs, the tiki torches. No mention of me. No caption about missing my sister or get well soon. Just pure vacation bliss. I scrolled to the next story. More of the same, Mom and Connor splashing in the shallow waves, Dad reading a book under an umbrella, Kayla filming a drone shot of the resort grounds. The final post was a carousel of photos, group shot in front of a luau stage, all 4 of them smiling, arms linked with the caption, "Much needed family escape to Hawaii after a stressful year. Grateful for this time together." Family first, family first. The words hit like ice water. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Shock came first, sharp disbelieving. Then the hurt rushed in deep and twisting, the kind that makes your chest feel hollow. I kept scrolling, hoping for something, anything, a private message, a text overlay, even a small emoji, but there was nothing. They were here living their perfect escape while I was alone in a dim apartment with a broken leg and an empty fridge. The anger followed, slow and cold. It wasn't hot rage. It was quieter, more final. They had chosen this. They had chosen the beach over me. I set the phone down. The room felt smaller, the walls closer. I sat there in the dark for a long time, the glow from the screen fading. The next morning, day 4, I had to change the bandage on my incision. The doctor had stressed keeping it clean to avoid infection. I gathered what I needed: fresh gauze tape, antiseptic wipes. Everything was on the bathroom counter, but getting there meant crossing the hallway. I positioned the crutches, took a breath, and started. 1 step, 2. The floor was slick from a small spill. I hadn't noticed water from a bottle I'd knocked over the day before. The right crutch tip slid. My balance tipped. The cast was too heavy, too awkward. I tried to catch myself, but the good leg buckled under the strain. I went down hard. The impact jarred everything. Pain exploded from the fracture site, shooting up my spine like fire. My elbow slammed the tile, the side of my head grazed the doorframe. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. I lay there on the cold floor, gasping, vision blurring. The crutches clattered away. The bandage supplies scattered. I stayed down. Minutes passed. The pain pulsed in waves, but the worst thing was the silence. No one came running. No door opening, no footsteps on the stairs, no voice calling my name. Just me on the floor, alone. I reached for my phone where it had fallen a foot away. My fingers closed around it. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the contacts. Mom, Dad, Connor. I could call. I could beg. I could explain again. But I didn't. I let the phone drop back to the tile. I realized, lying there with my leg throbbing and my chest tight, that no one was coming. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever, unless it suited them. Something inside me broke cleanly in that moment, not with tears, not with screams, but with a quiet final snap. There were no more excuses left. No more, maybe they're busy. No more, they'll come back. Just the truth, cold and clear. They had left me, and I was done pretending it was anything else. I lay there until the pain dulled enough to move. Slowly, painfully, I pulled myself up, using the sink edge, dragged myself back to the couch. The bandage could wait a little longer. Everything could wait. I was finished waiting for them. The nights after the fall became the hardest. Pain woke me around 3 a.m., every time, sharp and unrelenting, forcing me to stare at the ceiling in the dark while the apartment stayed silent. I couldn't sleep through it. Instead, my mind wandered back, replaying years of moments I had always brushed aside as just family helping family. I had been the responsible one since my early 20s. When I landed my first real job at 23, fresh out of college with a steady salary and a decent credit score, my parents came to me with their dream. They wanted a vacation condo on the big island of Hawaii, nothing extravagant, just a small 2-bedroom place near the beach for getaways. Their income didn't quite qualify for the mortgage on their own. The loan officer had been blunt: they needed a co-signer with strong credit. They looked at me across the kitchen table. "You're good with this stuff," Courtney, Mom said, almost proud. "It would mean so much." I hesitated only a moment. I signed. I told myself it was an investment in our shared future: holidays together, weekends away, something we all owned. I didn't stop there. I set up the autopay from my account because Dad said he hated dealing with online portals. When payments were short, some months unexpected repairs at their house, slow seasons at Dad's job, I covered the difference without asking. I never made a big deal of it. I just transferred the money and kept the mortgage current. The condo became their escape, their happy place, and I quietly made sure it stayed that way. Then came Connor's business. A few years later, he decided to turn his side hustle selling sports gear online into something full-time. He had the products, but no system. I stayed up nights building him a basic inventory tracker, linking his payment processor, organizing 3 years of receipts into clean spreadsheets for taxes. He called me his secret weapon, laughed about how I was basically his CFO. I laughed too. It felt good to be useful. I never charged him. I never asked for credit. It was family. Lying awake now, leg elevated, cast heavy against the pillows, those memories stopped feeling warm. They started looking like a pattern. Every time they needed financial stability, organization, or a safety net, I was the one they turned to. My name on the condo deed, my card on the auto pay, my hours spent on Connor's spreadsheets. They leaned on me so heavily that their lives stayed comfortable. And when I needed them, when I was the one broken and alone, I became optional, invisible. The realization settled slowly like sediment in still water. They hadn't just forgotten me for a vacation. They had built their entire comfort around my reliability and never once considered what it cost me. I couldn't keep being the safety net they only noticed when it tore. The next morning, I propped myself up higher on the couch, laptop balanced on my lap despite the ache in my back. The pain meds dulled the edges enough for me to focus. I searched for attorneys in Washington state who handled property disputes and joint debts. Someone practical, no flashy ads, just good reviews about being straightforward. I found a small firm with a simple website. Their contact form asked for details. I wrote the email carefully. I introduced myself, explained the situation without exaggeration. Recent car accident, broken leg, family had promised to care for me during recovery, but left for Hawaii instead, leaving me alone in a walk-up apartment. I attached the condo deed, my name still listed as co-owner, mortgage statements showing auto pay from my account, screenshots of transfers I'd made over the years, and the loan documents I'd kept in a digital folder. I described the joint accounts, the auto pay setup, and how my credit had been the key to qualifying. Then I got to the point: I need to know my options for removing myself from shared financial responsibilities while protecting what is legally mine. Specifically, withdrawing my name from the joint mortgage and accounts, and either obtaining a buyout of my share of the condo at fair market value or forcing a sale and division of proceeds if necessary. I hit send. The whoosh sound felt louder than it should have. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling again. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about punishing anyone. It was about stepping out from under a weight I had carried for years without realizing how heavy it had become. They had made their choice in Hawaii. Now I was making mine. The apartment stayed quiet, but for the first time in days, the silence didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like space, room to breathe, room to decide what came next. I closed the laptop and waited for the reply. A reply from the attorney arrived 2 days later. His email was calm, professional, almost dry. He confirmed that as co-owner on the deed, I had full legal standing to request a buyout of my share at current market value, or to initiate a partition sale if no agreement could be reached. He attached a step-by-step guide: first, revoke authorization for any autopay linked to my accounts. Second, send formal written notice to the mortgage lender and insurance provider. Third, file a request for accounting of equity. He ended with a simple line: "You do not need permission to protect your interests." I read it twice, then started. I logged into every portal I could remember. The condo mortgage autopay canceled. The utilities tied to the property removed my card. The joint checking account my parents used for occasional transfers closed my access effective immediately. Each confirmation screen felt like removing a thread from a web I had spent years weaving. I printed every receipt, saved every email, forwarded copies to the attorney. No drama, no hesitation, just clean cuts. Roughly 2.5 weeks after the accident, my phone rang. Mom's name appeared on the screen. I answered on the second ring. "Courtney, what is going on?" Her voice was sharp-edged with confusion. "The electric company just sent a late payment notice for the house. I thought you were handling that." I kept my tone even. "I was handling it. I'm not anymore. You own the house. You run the accounts now. You can set up your own autopay." There was a stunned pause. "This isn't funny. We're family. You can't just—" "I'm not doing anything to you," I said. I'm just done carrying things you never asked me to carry in the first place. She started talking over me something about the coffee shop being slow, the stress, how they'd only been gone a few days, but I ended the call before she could build momentum. I sent her the utility company's customer service number in a text. Nothing else. The next afternoon, a knock echoed through the apartment. I knew who it was before I opened the door. Dad stood there holding a thick envelope, face flushed. He didn't wait for an invitation. He stepped inside, waving the papers. What the hell is this? He thrust the letter forward, the mortgage company's formal notice of my intent to withdraw from the loan and request partition. You're trying to force us to sell the condo. I stayed seated on the couch, leg elevated. I'm not forcing anything. You and Mom and Connor can buy out my share at fair market value if you want to keep it. Or we sell and split the proceeds. Those are the options. He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. Over a trip? We were only gone a few days. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I met his eyes. This isn't about a few days. It's about a pattern. You chose Hawaii when I was fresh out of surgery, when I couldn't walk, when I asked for help, and got told to stop overreacting. You left me on the floor literally, and now you're surprised I'm not paying your bills anymore. He shifted, uncomfortable. We thought you'd be fine. You're strong. You always handle things. That's the problem, I said quietly. You counted on me being strong so you didn't have to be there. He tried to step closer, voice rising. You're being dramatic, Courtney. You're hurting your mother. You're upsetting the whole family. We've always been there for you. I shook my head. No, you've always expected me to be there for you. He opened his mouth again, but I cut him off. I think you should go. He hesitated, looking around the apartment at the stack of legal papers on the coffee table, the half-eaten microwave meal, the crutches propped nearby. For a second, I thought he might say something real. Instead, he turned towards the door. I stood slowly, painfully on my good leg, and crutches blocking the doorway when he tried to turn back. We're done talking. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me. Then he left. The door closed behind him with a soft click. I leaned against the wall, breathing hard. The apartment was quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. Not empty. Not lonely. Just mine. Spring arrived quietly in Seattle, softening the gray skies into something warmer. The condo sale process moved faster than I expected. Without my name and credit score on the mortgage application, refinancing was impossible. The lender gave them a short window to buy out my share or face partition. They couldn't come up with the cash. In the end, the property went on the market. The closing happened in early April. My share after fees and the remaining balance was wired directly to my new account. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. Enough to change things. Connor's business felt the impact next. Sponsors started pulling back when his inventory reports arrived, disorganized and late. One major brand paused their deal indefinitely, citing lack of professional systems. The IRS notice came a few weeks later, a request for additional documentation on past returns. It wasn't an audit yet, just a review, but it was enough to scare off the remaining partners. Cash flow dried up. He texted me once asking for the old spreadsheets. I didn't reply. My parents' situation unfolded more slowly. Their credit took a hit without my co-signing history propping it up. Late payments started stacking up, utilities, credit cards, small things they used to let slide because I quietly covered them. They borrowed from friends to bridge the gaps. Mom mentioned cutting back on extras, dining out, weekend trips. Dad's truck repair had to wait. They never said it outright, but the tone in the few messages they sent shifted from blame to quiet desperation. The flood of notifications came in waves. 45 missed calls over 3 days. Texts poured into the group chat I had muted. Please talk to us. We need to fix this. You're making us lose everything. Not once did any of them write the words, "I'm sorry we left you alone after your accident." Not once did they acknowledge the empty fridge, the fallen crutches, the nights I lay on the floor, wondering if anyone would notice if I didn't get up. They begged for the old version of me, the one who always stepped in, always fixed it, always forgave. But that version was gone. I kept the chat muted. I didn't respond. I didn't explain. I didn't soften the boundary. With the condo money, I moved. The new apartment was on the 4th floor of a modern building with a smooth elevator, wide hallways, and windows that let in real sunlight. I signed the lease myself. I paid the deposit with my own funds. For the first time in years, no shared utilities, no mystery auto pay, no emergency transfers lurking in the background. The space felt clean. Mine. I started therapy the same month. The counselor listened without judgment as I laid out the years like bullet points, the co-signing, the spreadsheets, the promises that were never kept. She introduced terms I hadn't considered: enmeshment, family roles, the fixer who absorbs everyone else's consequences. We talked about how some families assign jobs to their children without ever asking, the one who succeeds, the one who keeps the peace, the one who carries the load so others don't have to. She said, holding a boundary isn't cruelty even when it hurts them. It's honesty about what you can no longer carry. The sessions weren't easy. Some days I left feeling raw. But slowly the guilt I'd carried for so long began to loosen. I learned that saying no wasn't betrayal. It was self-respect. Outside therapy, a different kind of family started forming. My downstairs neighbor, Mr. Ramirez, knocked on my door one evening with a container of homemade pozole. My wife always cooked for anyone who was recovering, he said simply. Figured you could use it. He didn't ask questions. He just showed up. Twice a month after that, he brought something: tamales, fresh fruit, a small cake. No strings. My friends stepped in too. They organized rides to physical therapy when I still couldn't drive. They shifted our weekly board game nights online until I could manage stairs again, then picked me up for the first in-person session, so I didn't have to navigate the bus. They texted about pain levels, progress, stupid memes. They never asked me to fix anything for them. They just showed up. These were the people who didn't share my last name, who hadn't benefited from my credit score or my spreadsheets. Yet they were the ones who checked in, who made sure I ate, who laughed with me when I finally walked across the room without crutches. I looked at the faint scar on my leg one afternoon, standing by the window in my new place, sunlight warming the floor. The cast was long gone. The limp was fading. The scar was a thin white line, a reminder, not a wound. I thought about those 45 missed calls, the desperate messages, the people on the other end who still didn't understand. They had taught me without meaning to that family isn't blood. It's the people who stay when you're broken, the ones who don't leave you on the floor. I never unmuted the chat. I never called back. I let the silence grow. It wasn't cruel. It was honest. You don't owe anyone your life forever. You don't owe anyone endless sacrifice just because they're family. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for them and for yourself is to let them face the consequences of their choices. Sometimes protecting yourself is the only way to finally start living.